I stood in our quiet Tokyo apartment kitchen late at night, the glow of my phone the only light. My husband's last video call from Dubai played on loop again. His tired smile, the same promises whispered through static. Another lonely evening stretched ahead, the kind that settled heavy in my chest like rain that never quite falls. Sharp and unexpected, I opened the door and there he was, Alex, my husband's old university friend, tall American expat, suitcase in hand and a tired smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. He explained he needed a place to crash for a few weeks until his company housing came through. Rain had soaked his shirt, the fabric clinging to his chest in a way that made my throat tighten. When he reached up to wipe water from his face, his shirt lifted just enough. That single exposed line of toned skin, the kind of raw masculine strength my husband no longer had time to keep. My breath caught. Heat flickered low and unwanted through me, gone as quickly as it came. "Come in," I said, voice softer than I meant. He stepped inside, bringing the scent of rain and something warmer, cedarwood maybe. The door clicked shut behind him, and suddenly the apartment felt smaller. Much smaller. The next morning we shared coffee at the small table where I used to sit with my husband. Sunlight filtered through the blinds, catching on the steam rising between us. Alex's deep voice and easy laugh filled the silence that had grown too familiar. He stood to help me reach the top shelf for the sugar, his arm brushing mine. Solid, lingering a second longer than necessary, that cedarwood cologne mixed with fresh coffee, wrapping around me like an embrace I hadn't asked for. My pulse quickened before I could stop it. This is just hospitality, I told myself, fingers tightening around my mug. My husband even suggested I help his friend. It's not like we're alone forever. Just a few weeks, nothing more. While I folded laundry in the living room that afternoon, the soft hum of the city outside our window, Alex offered to help without being asked. His hands moved next to mine, folding my delicate nightgowns with careful precision. The cotton felt too intimate under our fingers, the fabric whispering as it passed between us. I pulled back slightly as it passed between us. Heart racing, the air between our bodies suddenly charged. "It's just being kind," I thought. Cheeks warming. My husband is thousands of miles away working hard for us. I can't let a simple touch make me feel this alive after months of nothing. Months of cold sheets and distant goodnights. Yet here I was, hyper-aware of how close his shoulder was to mine, the quiet rhythm of his breathing sissening with my own without permission. I glanced at him sideways. He caught my eye and smiled, slow and easy, like he understood the silence better than I did. My stomach twisted with something dangerously close to craving. I looked away fast, focusing on the next fold, but the ache lingered. That pull, that gravity I had no right to feel. Later, as I reached for another piece, our hands nearly touched again over the warm pile of clothes. I froze for half a second, breath shallow, wondering what would happen if I didn't move the away first. The thought sent a shiver through me I tried to hide by turning toward the window. Why does this feel like more than help? Why does his nearness make the loneliness echo louder than before? I swallowed hard, the internal war raging quiet and fierce. "Stop this now. It's your husband's friend. This is temporary." But my body remembered what it was like to be seen, to be close, and it refused to forget so easily. And then, as I straightened up, Alex's gaze lingered on me just a moment too long. Something unspoken flickering there, heavy with the same tension I felt building in my chest. My heart hammered against my ribs, the almost moment hanging between us like the storm outside that still hadn't broken. I set the table for that evening, the grilled fish still warm from the pan, rice steaming softly beside it. The bottle of wine my husband had left in the cabinet felt heavy in my hands as I poured. Alex sat across from me, his sleeves rolled up, telling stories about the chaos of life abroad. His laugh came easy low, filling the quiet spaces it'd grown used to. Our knees brushed under the table once, then stayed there, the fabric of his pants warm against my skin. "This is only temporary," I thought, lifting my glass. "It's my husband's friend, not some stranger off the street." Loneliness does this, makes ordinary conversation feel like a lifeline. I'm not betraying anyone by laughing again after weeks of silence. The wine loosened something in my chest. I told him about the little frustrations of my days here, and he listened like every word mattered. His eyes held mine longer than they should. The gentle pressure of his knee remained. Steady, undeniable. He crept up my neck, but I smiled anyway, pretending it was just the alcohol, just two adults sharing a meal. Nothing more. Later, as we cleared the plates, my phone hummed to life on the counter. An old just song my husband and I used to sway to in this very room drifted out, soft saxophone curling through the air. The notes wrapped around me like memory-made sound. Alex paused, wiped his hands, then stood with a playful tilt of his head and offered his hand. "Come on," he said, voice quiet, almost teasing. "One silly dance won't hurt." I hesitated, heart already stumbling, but I took it. His palm was warm, slightly calloused, fitting against mine with a firmness that sent a shiver racing up my arm. Under the low light, he pulled me close enough that the heat of his body brushed my front. His other hand settled at my waist, fingers splayed lightly over the fabric of my blouse. The scent of him clean soap and that faint cedar mixed with the lingering wine on my breath. We moved slowly, barely more than a gentle sway, but every shift brought us nearer. I could feel the steady rise and fall of his chest, the way his shirt stretched across his shoulders. Memories of my husband's distant hugs flickered, cool and far away, but Alex's touch was here, solid, present in a way that made my pulse thunder. Guilt crashed over me like cold water. This is wrong. He isn't my husband. Yet God, it's been so long since anyone made me feel this wanted, this seen. I closed my eyes for a second, letting the music carry us, but the ache only deepened. His breath stirred the hair at my temple, warm and steady. My hand trembled slightly where it rested on his arm. We weren't really dancing anymore, just standing close, the almost way holding us suspended. I should pull away. I should step back right now. But my body leaned in a fraction, drawn by that invisible gravity, before I caught myself. When the song faded, neither of us moved immediately. The silence hummed between us, thick with everything unsaid. I swallowed hard, the internal storm raging louder. Stop. Think of your vows. Think of the man who's working oceans away for us. But the warmth of his palm still lingered on my waist, and my skin remembered it too well. A little later, heading to the bathroom, my foot caught awkwardly on the edge of the rug. Pain shot through my ankle, sharp but not crippling. I winced, steadying myself against the wall. Alex was there in an instant, concern tightening his features. "Let me help," he said, voice low. No room for argument. He guided me to the couch, his arm around my shoulders steady and sure. I sat, and he knelt in front of me, fetching ice from the kitchen without being asked. His hands careful as he wrapped the cold pack around the swelling. The pressure of his fingers massaging lightly around the ache sent slow waves of heat traveling up my leg. Not from pain, something else, something dangerous. Our faces were inches apart now. I could see the faint stubble along his jaw, smell the clean scent of his skin mingled with the sharp mint of the ointment. His breath brushed my knee as he worked, warm and rhythmic. My mind screamed at me, "Stop this now. Remember your marriage, remember who you are," but my body betrayed me, leaning in just a fraction too long, drawn to the quiet strength in his touch. He looked up then, eyes dark in the lamplight, meeting mine. The air between us thickened, charged, every unspoken word hanging there. My heart hammered wildly. I felt the pull, that trembling hunger I had no right to feel. His hand stilled on my ankle, warm through the fabric, and for one endless second neither of us moved. I pulled away first, breath shaky, murmuring something about it feeling better already. But the heat stayed, pulsing low and insistent, as his gaze lingered on me. Heavy with the same forbidden question, I cowled and let myself answer. I couldn't sleep that night, the kind of restless ache that made the sheets feel too heavy, too confining. The apartment hummed with quiet, but my mind wouldn't settle. I slipped out to the balcony, the cool night air brushing my skin like a secret I wasn't ready to name. Minutes later, the sliding door whispered open behind me. Alex stepped out, to glasses in hand, the faint clink of ice the only sound breaking the silence. Couldn't sleep either. His voice was low, rough around the edges, carrying that tired honesty that pulled at something deep inside me. We sat side by side on the narrow bench, shoulders not quite touching, yet the space between us felt alive, charged with everything we weren't saying. The city lights below flickered like distant stars we could never reach. He handed me the drink, our fingers brushing for a heartbeat to lom. Warmth lingered where skin met skin. We talked about the strains that come with loving someone across oceans, how time zones turn intimacy into echoes, how absence carves hollows you don't notice until someone sits close enough to fill them. Alex spoke of his recent divorce, the loneliness that had settled in his chest like winter fog. His words wrapped around me, soft and heavy. Some nights I wonder if I'll ever feel close to anyone again. He murmured, gaze fixed on the horizon. The cool breeze carried his scent toward me, clean and grounding. When his hand accidentally rested on my knee, meant only for comfort, a surge of something forbidden rushed through me. Heat bloomed under his palm, spreading slow and insistent. I rationalized it desperately in the quiet of my mind. We're both adults missing our partners. Sharing pain isn't cheating. My husband would understand, wouldn't he? My breath caught, shallow and uneven, as his fingers stayed there, warm through the thin fabric of my lounge pants. The conversation deepened, voices dropping lower, words spilling like confessions under moonlight. Every pause stretched, thick with possibility. His thumb moved once, a small absent circle against my knee, and my pulse answered with a frantic rhythm I couldn't quiet. I should move, I should laugh it off and go inside. But the night air held us suspended, the almost touch anchoring me in place. Just as the tension coiled tighter, his gaze drifting to linger on my lips with a hunger that mirrored my own hidden craving. My phone shattered the moment. It rang sharp and insistent from inside. I jumped up too quickly, heart slamming against my ribs, voice shaky as I answered. "Hey, everything okay?" Alex quietly retreated, slipping back through the door to the guest room without a word. The interruption left me trembling on the balcony, and spent heat still coursing through my veins like liquid fire I had no right to feel. I whispered to the empty night after hanging up, voice barely there. That was too close. I almost crossed the line for a man who isn't even mine. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I gripped the railing, the cool metal a poor substitute for the warmth I'd just pulled away from. Days blurred after that, folding into shared routines that felt dangerously intimate. Grocery runs where our carts bumped in narrow aisles, his shoulder pressing lightly against mine as we reached for the same bunch of herbs. Cooking sessions in the kitchen, the rhythmic chop of vegetables seasoning our movements until the space between us vanished. The way his arm brushed my back when he passed behind me sent tiny sparks racing across my skin. Domestic echoes of a life we weren't supposed to build together. Every small touch lingered in my thoughts long after. The way his fingers steadied the cutting board near mine, warm and steady. The quiet laugh he let out when sauce splattered on his shirt, eyes meeting mine with that quiet intensity. In the mirror afterward, while washing up alone, I stared at my flushed cheeks, the faint sheen of sweat at my collarbone. I'm a married woman. Like someone finally noticed the woman beneath the routines and the waiting. The hunger grew in quiet moments, twisting deeper with each shared glance, each accidental proximity that wasn't quite accidental anymore. I caught myself wondering what his hand would feel like if it lingered longer, what his voice would sound like if it dropped even lower in the dark. Guilt gnawed at the edges, sharpened unrelenting, yet the pull only strengthened, drawing me closer to the edge I swore I'd never approach. And then, one evening as we cleared the table, our hands met over the same plate, his fingers closing gently around mine for a fraction longer than necessary, eyes locking in the soft kitchen light, the air thickening once more with that unspoken question. My breath hitched, the internal war flaring bright and desperate. How much longer could I pretend this was innocent? The storm rolled in without warning, thunder cracking like a warning I chose to ignore. Rain lashed the windows as the lights flickered once, twice, then died completely, plunging the apartment into sudden darkness. I gasped, the sound too loud in the quiet that followed. Alex moved first, his voice low and steady through the black. Candles. I think I saw some in the drawer. Our hands brushed while searching, that familiar spark jumping between us again, sharper now in the absence of light. We settled on the couch under one shared blanket, the only warmth left in the room. The candle flames danced between us, casting shifting shadows across his face, highlighting the hunger etched there, raw and unguarded. His eyes held mine longer than they should, pulling me under like gravity I couldn't fight. The blanket draped over our laps, heavy with the heat of two bodies too close for comfort. I felt the rise and fall of his chest, steady but quickening, mirroring the chaos in mine. His hand found my arm under the fabric, fingers tracing slowly from wrist to elbow, the texture of his skin against mine sending electricity humming through every nerve. This time I didn't pull away, not immediately. My breath caught, shallow and uneven, as the internal voice fractured wide open. This is the moment. If I let this happen, there's no going back. But I need to feel something real tonight, something that reminds me I'm still alive while my husband builds our future an ocean away. The storm howled outside, matching the one building inside me. His touch lingered, warm and deliberate, awakening places that had slept too long in waiting. I leaned in just a fraction, the air between our faces thinning to nothing. His breath warmed my cheek, carrying that faint cedarwood scent that had haunted my nights. We were suspended there on the edge of surrender, the candlelight painting everything in golden temptation. Then his fingers shifted higher, brushing the curve of my shoulder, and something in me gave way. Our lips met in a deep, forbidden kiss, soft at first, then hungry with all the unspoken days between us. His body pressed closer under the blanket, the solid warmth of him overwhelming, pulling me into a current I no longer wanted to escape. The ache deepened, a craving that threatened to drown every promise I'd made. It trembled against his chest, not pushing, not quite holding, caught in the exquisite torture of almost. A sudden ping sliced through the haze. My phone lit up on the table, the screen glowing harsh and accusatory. My husband's name flashed, the video call notification demanding attention from halfway across the world. We froze, lips still brushing, breaths mingling in shock. I pulled back sharply, tears already mixing with the taste of him on my lips, salty and bittersweet. "Not like this," I whispered, voice breaking on the words. Alex stepped away, breathing hard, the unresolved heat still crackling between us like live wires. The call went unanswered, ringing into silence that felt heavier than the storm. He didn't speak, just nodded once, eyes dark with everything left unsaid, before retreating to the guest room. I sat there alone as the candle flickered lower, the blanket now to empty against my skin. The rain continued its relentless rhythm, washing over the city while inside me everything remained painfully unfinished. Morning came too soon, gray light filtering through rain-streaked windows. Alex left for his new apartment with quiet efficiency, suitcase wheels whispering against the floor like a final goodbye. He paused at the door, offering a small smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Take care of yourself," that was all. The space he left behind felt vast, echoing with absence. Only the faint cedarwood scent lingered on the guest room pillow, and an old jazz playlist he'd added to my phone, notes drifting soft and melancholic when I played it later. I sat alone in the same kitchen where our hands had met over plates and glances had grown too heavy. My fingers touched my lips, tracing the memory of that kiss, the way it had ignited everything I tried to bury. Crushing guilt wrapped around my chest, tightened unrelenting, yet the aching desire refused to fade. Nothing happened, and yet everything has changed. My husband is still abroad, building the life we dreamed of, but now I carry this secret temptation through every lonely night. The internal war rages on in whispers. Am I still the faithful wife I thought I was, or has this storm revealed cracks I can no longer ignore? The emotional circuit stays painfully open, humming with what-ifs that follow me into the quiet hours. What would have happened if that call hadn't come? If the rain had kept falling and the candles had burned lower still? I close my eyes, breath trembling, and let the unanswered question settle deep in my bones, a haunting melody I know I'll replay when the nights grow long again.